And now Bob Rosner will be our moderator for our program. And fortunately, as a member, you all know Bob, so literally without any introduction, take it away, Bob.
We're going to begin today's program with a quick game of word association. Dave Reichert, your personal hero.
Am I on?
I don't think so.
Yes. Oh, yes? No? Yeah, I did. Hello? Oh, okay, there's. That's
Personal hero.
I'd have to say Norm Mailing.
Jay, your personal hero.
Ralph Monroe. And I'll tell you why. Because of what Ralph did, we've got a shot at keeping our orcas healthy till my grandkids older. And every time I see the Virginia Phi steam into Bainbridge Island, I think of Ralph Monroe. Thanks, Ralph, for your great work.
Okay. Jay, number one concern in your district.
Right now, obviously, jobs. We got 25 million people unemployed. This is number one, will be for some time, and we've got to find a bipartisan way to get job creation.
Dave, number one issue in your district?
I hear the same issue over and over. We just did a teletown hall this morning with 10,000 people on the telephone, and the discussion was around jobs and the economy and our debt.
Dave, Rotary.
Rotary service.
Jay, Rotarians.
The folks who will bring the four-way test to Congress and solve all American problems. How's that for
Jay, Keith Olbermann.
I'm sorry?
Keith Olbermann.
Great play-by-play announcer.
Dave, Rush Limbaugh.
Enough said.
Dave, most effective Democrat.
To me? Oh, Jay.
You're going to the Dave.
Yes, Dave. The most effective Democrat.
Jay Inslee.
Jay, the most effective Republican.
Well, there's an obvious counterpart here. And by saying Dave today, I know my sincerity will not be questioned. But we'll talk about some things we're working on. You'll see there is a reason for our mutual admiration society here.
Jay, House Speaker Boehner.
John is a nice guy who believes in the House, and I will say has done some things to allow some open debate, which we do appreciate.
Dave,
he, on occasion, is wrong.
Dave, President Obama.
President Obama, I think, at least in my relationship with the president is essentially been through working on trade. And as a member of two Republicans, as a member of the Trade Export Council, the President's Export Council, I really admire his ability here to get a Korean agreement accomplished and his work on Colombia, Panama, and I think his heart's in the right place, and occasionally he's wrong.
Dave, most annoying part of Congress.
It's not Jay Inslee.
Jay comes up a lot in your answers. Jay, most annoying part of Congress.
The bells. We're like Pavlovian. These bells go off, and we run, and we're scattered.
Jay Inslee, Move On and George Soros.
Well, I don't know George Soros. I do know the Move On group that actually started during the impeachment of Bill Clinton, and I actually was opposed to that and was one of the only people who ran that year for election against the impeachment of Bill Clinton, so I have some history there. They have organized people. They have given voice. Sometimes they have even been wrong.
Dave Reichert, the Tea Party and the Koch brothers.
Gee, that's a surprise. Tea Party. I would. My answer would be similar to Jay's in that the Tea Party has given voice, and occasionally their positions have been extreme as well on the other side.
Dave, Democrats.
Americans, patriots, heroes, and as the Koreans would call the Democrats in their country, the opposition party.
Jay, Republicans.
Emerging Democrats.
Jay, David George Reichert.
Dave is grandson of the town sheriff of, is it Detroit Lakes? Is that right?
He was a
Minnesota. Marshall. And is still looked on as a sheriff in Congress. and it's a very, very important voice to have.
Dave, J. Robert Inslee.
Well, I think few people in the room may know that, first of all, what Jay does at Christmas on the House floor is hand out miniature candy canes. Second, he is the cousin of two deputies that worked for me when I was the sheriff, one who was killed in the line of duty.
Okay, we're going to have one word that's verboten today. According to these gentlemen, they've agreed that the G word, governor, will not be used today in any context. Okay, let's get the first question. Gallup's latest congressional approval rating is at 18%, matching the all-time low score of 2007 and 1992. In terms of popularity, Congress appears to be about the level of irritable bowel syndrome. What can be done to save this increasingly unpopular institution?
Well, I guess the first thing I would say is this is not exactly a new thing. I think of Will Rogers, great American humorist, and they said, how do you come up with humor every single week? And he said, it's easy when you got the whole U.S. Congress working for you. So this is not an entirely new syndrome. It is a great frustration. I would say that, obviously, the way people feel about Congress mirrors how they feel about their futures. And right now, we have tens of millions of people out of work. We have 50% of the sales in Pierce County were either foreclosures or short sales last month. And unless until that turns around, people are going to have, for very good reason, probably those numbers. And that's a central challenge that all of us have to work on. Dave, any thoughts?
Yes, I think that coming from the sheriff's office and coming from the sheriff's office as the sheriff, as many of you may know, in just about every county in this country is the most popular elected official in the county. So coming from that position, where I felt like I was very well liked, and then having to put an R behind my name, where all of a sudden I lost a few friends, to this world of black and white, right and wrong world, decision making, to this gray world of politics, I think what I see as the difference is that there is a trust that is established in my previous career, and in this career, I think that there is a lack of trust, and combined with some of the things that Jay mentioned, but really I think that our actions must speak louder than our words.
We're a room full of seasoned business executives who pay attention to current events and politics. What would surprise us the most about D.C. from your perspective, the inside part of Congress?
Am I up, Bob? You're looking at me, I guess.
Either one of you.
I think the thing that, when I tell people this, is most surprising is that there are good personal relationships of members in Congress. We have lunch together, we enjoy a root beer together, we play basketball together, we play baseball together. And I think they're really good working relationships on a personal level. And because there are such strong convictions about matter of principle that I respect that are different, people translate that to the fact that we can't talk to one another or try to listen to each other. What we all can do a better job of is making sure that people understand that we do not lose the opportunity to find consensus when we do have issues of great conviction that are different. And that is the art of Congress, and those who are successful in Congress are able to do that.
I think there's two things that I would mention. One would be the schedule. I think if you were to, what we've done is bring our staff back on occasion and have them shadow me. And they're absolutely shocked, and they work for me here in the district, so we bring them back to D.C. and let them get an understanding of what happens in Washington, D.C. They're shocked at the pace that we keep. Most people don't recognize that, and the pace that we keep when we come back to the district. And I would mention as a second thought that I really think it's important for us to really focus on this relationship issue, because what we see in the media is leadership essentially positioning themselves politically for the next big issue to come along. But there are those friendships that Jay mentioned. In fact, he and I have worked on a host of issues together. Alpine Lakes is one good example. Emergency communications after the Lakewood officers' murders. He and I have worked together on those sorts of issues. And And also the entire delegation, for example, coming together and working on the WTO Boeing Airbus issue.
I hate to have to ask this question. Representative Weiner, Senator Ensign, Governor Sanford, Senator Edwards, Brett Favre. These all guys were effective leaders who have egos and who color outside the lines. Should we be surprised when this same combination of ego and coloring outside the lines also gets them in trouble?
Well, I think that people have to remember that members of Congress come from our own community here in the United States of America. We're human beings like anyone else, not to make excuses for anyone, but these things are happening out in our own world. Those people happen to be in positions of leadership. It's reprehensible behavior, and I believe when we discover issues like that, in this case, people should apologize, should take responsibility, and in some cases, I think it's been recommended and suggested that they step down from office. This is the disappointment that people have in their leadership. This is the cause of some of the low percentage approval ratings that you referred to earlier. And again, our actions need to speak.
Jay, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, this is the bipartisanship we do not wish to share, and unfortunately that's been the case. I guess what I'll say is there are mortals who serve on Congress on both sides of the aisle, and what we try to do is have the most vigorous ethics process to try to respond fairly and justly and with vigor to when these situations have occurred. And we have struggled with this process over time because when you have two parties involved in it, it is difficult sometimes. We've had some successes. Many of the people's names you read off are no longer serving in the United States Constitution, in the United States Congress. So there have been some successes in that ethics program. We've got to be vigorous, and will be in the latest tragedy.
Okay, I'm going to start opening it up for questions in a second. I just want to ask this one. Barry Goldwater once observed, extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. Now we have Gabby Giffords, the worst person in the world, pinheads and patriots. Is the vitriol in today's political discourse part of the solution, or is Goldwater observed, or is it part of the problem?
Go ahead.
I'll just take a crack at it. The art of politics to make the institution where we work in Congress is to disagree strongly without being disagreeable, to disagree on matters of policy in clear, understandable, forceful ways, but not impugn the integrity or motivations of the people we disagree with. And when we do that, the institution can work. Where it breaks down is where you get issues of impugning the integrity or motivations of the other person who does not share the same conviction. And that's the line that many people have crossed in the public debate. And that's really unfortunate, and it slows down our ability. And we have had successful. I think I work with Joe Barton, who I have fundamental disagreements about, from Texas, about energy policy. But we passed a bill this year that would protect biotech data exclusivity. I work with Lamar Smith. I have fundamental disagreements with him on a whole host of issues, but we passed a bill that Dave also has worked on a drug take-back issue. We do have successes when we remember that fundamental precept.
Well, I've worked with people at the opposite end of the political spectrum. Also, as Jay says, it's interesting to partner up with people like Patrick Kennedy, who's no longer with us in Congress, but is as you might guess, at the opposite end of the political spectrum. So he and I worked on a health IT bill together. Bill Pascrell, a good friend out of New Jersey on the other end of the spectrum, he and I have worked together on some law enforcement firefighters issues and on some environmental issues. So we have those opportunities. People don't get to see up close and personal the friendships and the partnerships that have been developed in working together. I do think there's a responsibility on the part of the community. It's not all on the shoulders of the men and women who serve in Congress to help reduce some of this language back and forth is the language that really incites people. Members of Congress listen to their constituents, and the constituents are, far right, far left, and loud and screaming. Sometimes the representative will come back and express some of that same emotion on the floor of the House, and you've probably seen it in some of the C-SPAN clips. So I really think there's a responsibility on not only our part, but everyone in the country to tone down the rhetoric, to tone down that vitriol sort of language, respect each other's opinions, come to the table with respect, and come to listen, come to share ideas, and come finally, please, come to a solution.
The beauty of Rotary was Faith just leaned over to me and said, Bob, that question was incomprehensible. I love Rotary for just that reason.
I hope the answers weren't.
No, the answer made sense. She approved of the answer.
Perfect, thank you.
Dave, you raise a question. When you vote, you have polls in your district. You have emails to you. You have your political party. You have vote trading. You have a million influences on you with the vote. How do you sort through all of that?
Well, I don't vote trade, number one. That's something that I haven't done and I won't do. I try to, I come to this job really with I don't know how you can separate your past life with this life, 33 years of law enforcement. I'm sort of the Joe Friday kind of a congressman, just the facts, please. And that doesn't mean that we don't keep track of calls and emails and thoughts of people, because our job is to represent the people of our district. So we listen very carefully to those phone calls and read the emails, the 300 to 400 a day that we get. We try to respond to. For me, you do take in your personal thoughts, the thoughts and ideas of your constituents, but I don't do any vote trading or horse trading in that regard. But I think it's important to listen to your constituents and your heart.
Jay?
Yeah, that's another misconception, this vote trading thing. I don't see it happen. There is a misconception about that. People do their best job to try to listen to their convictions of their constituents, the demands of the U.S. Congress, and their own consciences. And those three things are always in play almost in any contentious issue. And when in doubt, they call, at least in my case, one particular constituent who, in my view, is the oracle of all wisdom, which is my high school girlfriend who's sitting in the corner that I've been married to for 39 years. So that's, thank you, Trudy. Remember that I said that, wouldn't you?
Wow, Jay's not only working the political issues, he's working his family issues.
I'd like to ask, how do you feel about term limits?
I favor term limits the old-fashioned way, which is voters always have the right to throw the bums out every 2 years, and it's a pretty frequent occasion, and Dave and I re-up and apply every 2 years for our job, and voters can do as they will.
I would agree with that too. The Constitution gives you that the voting right, and we're elected every 2 years. And if you want to get rid of someone who is expressing themselves in that very angry and vitriol sort of manner, then you have the power of the vote to have someone else represent you.
I want to talk about flip-flopping for a second. It seems that in business, we all change our minds all the time, and we help our businesses grow. When you guys change a position, you get hit over the head by opponents. How much do you think about that when you're voting? How much of a drag on that, or am I overstating flip-flopping as a concern of yours?
Well, I'm going to give the same answer twice to your question, of course, but this is a tough room. That was a joke, but in any event.
I got it. Thank you.
Did you get it, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay.
I chuckled inside. Thank you.
It is a concern because frequently we may, give an example. You vote for a war. I oppose the Iraq War, and I've felt very strongly about that. I think some of the things I feared did come to pass. Maybe that vote was right. But I opposed the Kosovo intervention during the Clinton years. I stood up to Bill Clinton because I thought what he was doing, and it turned out maybe that vote was wrong. I just think you have to have the courage to be willing to change as you learn, and circumstances change. If you take an umbrella when it's raining and it's sunny the next day, you don't take an umbrella again. It's not flip-flopping. So it is an issue that we need to do it, and I think you just have to have the courage to change sometimes when those circumstances do change.
I think that there, again, I'm going to go back to responsibility for everyone in this room and across the country. The media sometimes portrays our votes as flip-flopping, and I think it's incumbent upon all of us to search out the facts. And I think that we do have to have, and we should have, the leeway in as we learn more, and every situation is different. You can't compare Iraq to Afghanistan, Afghanistan to Libya. So if you were you were voted yes to the war in Afghanistan, and now we're looking at Libya, and we've got a different question altogether there, and you see support or lack of support, and we're called a flip-flop. Libya and Afghanistan can't be compared. However, the media will try to lump that together, make it all one little problem and a similar problem, and we're flip-flopping. So I think that, again, we're required to examine the facts, make decisions based on facts. And I've been accused of flip-flopping. I know Jay has too. He's been accused of flip-flopping a lot more than I have, by the way. But did I really say that? No, I didn't.
Talk to me for a second, very briefly, we only have about 5 minutes left, about your highest and your lowest point in Congress.
I don't know, has the lowest come yet? We'll see. I have to say this may be a bittersweet moment, but when we did pass a clean energy bill in the House of Representatives in the last Congress, I thought this was a major potential economic step forward for the country. It was a very hard-wrought compromise that we reached to try to get a bill to go forward. It had the capacity, I thought, to put us in competition with China so that we can start doing electric cars and lithium-ion batteries and biofuels and Boeing's biofuel-driven plane, whereas without it, that China could leave us in the dust. So it was a high, but perhaps the equivalent low is when there was no action in the Senate on clean energy whatsoever. So I had a high, and now we are in a deep low, watching China advance. Now, we've had some things we've done. We have a company called Energy 2 on the shores of Lake Union, which has adopted an ultracapacitor. We had the first all-electric car get charged at Stevens Pass last weekend, driving from Wenatchee to Seattle. The best event I've ever gone to is to give the dedication at the Wooden Cross Lutheran Church, at the first electric car charging station at a church in America. It was a pretty cool event. So, high and low in the same issue, and I look forward to when we can again have some bipartisan success getting us back on that clean energy bandwagon.
Thanks, Jay. Dave?
Well, for sort of a humorous high point, it would have been in my first 3 months, we were evacuated from the Capitol. And as I was evacuated along with all the other members of Congress, of course, I hadn't only not been a cop for 3 months. So my first reaction was to run toward where the cops were yelling, because I thought there was a problem and I'd forgotten I'm not a police officer any longer. They stopped me and said, "Sheriff, no, you've got to go. You're leaving." And I said, "No, I can't leave." "Yes, you can." So I left, running down the stairs, and I happened to cross a shoe that got kicked up on the stairway. I picked it up. I was afraid someone might they might stumble on it. Out in the 3 blocks away from the Capitol, I began to do an investigation to find out whose shoe it was, and checking with the ladies, are you missing it? It was a pink slipper. Are you missing a pink slipper? And anyway, long story short, we discovered it belonged to Nancy Pelosi. So, we called her office, had her describe the shoe. They were going to come over and get it. I said, well, we'll deliver it to you. The next morning was her press conference, her weekly press conference. I interrupted her press conference, knelt down on one knee, and presented a pink slipper to Nancy Pelosi. So that was sort of a comedic high point. Really, on a more personal and I think for our community important note, a high point would be the passage of Alpine Lakes through the House of Representatives, and Jay and I, continuing to work on that again this Congress, and we are making some progress. But that was a high point for me. Didn't get to the Senate, but the low point, I would have to say, for me, was being on the floor of the House of Representatives on the first TARP vote. And both Jay and I received, the same information that if this didn't pass, this country was going to crumble. I voted no on that bill, and as we were on the floor and the country was watching that vote, we got messages on our BlackBerries on the floor, just to give you some feeling as how intense sometimes this can be with that one little card, that one little vote that we have to represent all of you, and how important that one little vote is, how important your vote is getting us there. While we're on the floor of the House, we're all getting notes saying the stock market has dropped 100, 200, 300, 500, 600, and everyone wondering, I don't care if you voted yes or voted no, wondering, did I make the right vote?
This program, you both don't know this, but I've been working on this program for approximately 15 years. I actually got Patty Murray agreeing to do it with Slade Gordon, but Slade never agreed to do it. So the idea of a Republican and Democrat getting on stage together to talk about what actually goes on in D.C. is a very gutsy move, as I discovered. So I would like the crowd to give these two gentlemen a huge round of applause for doing this today.
Seattle Rotary Online is made possible in part by a grant from First Choice Health, working with the Washington Health Information Collaborative to use technology to bring better health care to patients throughout the Pacific Northwest. First Choice Health.